Hello again. It is, I think, time that something was done about the different experiences faced by black people in Britain and to ensure that they and their children have the same opportunities as the rest of the population. After all, they tend to have lower incomes, be more likely to fall foul of the police and end up in prison, less likely to get to the best universities, more likely to be living in rented accommodation instead of owning their own homes, just to mention a few of the ways that the life chances of black people differ from the majority white population in Britain today. Setting this situation straight should be fairly easy and cost very little. The greatest predictor of a good educational outcome and high income in later life is for children to grow up with both their parents in a home containing at least 500 books. For the mother and father of a child to remain together in a relationship as they raise their child together costs nothing at all. Second-hand books from charity shops cost between 50p and maybe £4 or £5. If a library of books is built up in this way from the birth of a baby, then it would mean spending no more than £1 or £2 a week until the child starts school. By that time, there would be 500 books in the home. The parents can also model the behaviour of reading in front of the child and reading bedtime stories every night to the kid. Again, it doesn't cost anything. Right there are two simple steps which black parents could take to turbocharge a child's life chances. It is simple enough. A good standard of academic education leads to higher income. Being excluded from school or not doing homework has the opposite effect. Make sure the child does his or her homework and also support the school and don't criticise teachers in front of the child. So far we've spent only £1 or £2 a week and given the child a greatly increased chance of doing well in life. For older black children and teenagers, doing as they are told by teachers and police officers will massively reduce their chance of ending up in prison or leaving school without qualifications, something which often leads to poverty. This too costs nothing at all. If a policeman says, "Where have you been?" tell him. If he asks to see what you have in your pockets, then show him. Here's another handy tip for youngsters. Avoid teenage pregnancies, don't carry guns or knives, and stay away from illegal recreational drugs. Children and young people from homes where the parents are of Chinese origin are already familiar with these basic rules, and because they usually abide by them, they get to Oxford and Cambridge universities rather than going to Belmarsh prison. They are more likely to own their own homes and have good jobs than either black or white people. Forget about systemic racism and the slave trade. These are practical steps which can be taken right now to improve the lot of black families in Britain. If every black person in the country followed those simple guidelines, I have a suspicion that within 20 years at the most, almost all the inequalities over which so many people wring their hands in despair would simply fade away. Or, on the other hand, we can continue to tell black people that everything which goes wrong in their lives is a product of colonialism and institutional racism. This will ensure that the inequalities between black and white either remain the same or actually increase. I have no idea why anybody would find that a desirable state of affairs, but it is what is currently happening. There is absolutely no mystery about any of this, and as I say, matters could be resolved within a few years without it costing the taxpayer a penny. Indeed, the savings would be considerable. The number of people in prison would fall, the bill for state benefits would be reduced, and tax receipts would rise. I find the fact that nobody in government wishes to grasp the bull by the horns and tackle this situation head on a little odd. Ask any teacher, sociologist or police officer and they will freely admit the nature of the problem, at least in private. That nobody will tell the truth about this publicly is an absolute scandal.